Hello everybody, welcome to this video. I hope you're doing well. Today's video is kind of a response slash continuation of the last proper video that I made, not counting live streams, that talked about 13 reasons why I don't like collecting vinyl records. Now that video was a little bit different for me. One, most notably probably the editing style. It was a bit more fast-paced, a bit more comedic, which people seem to quite enjoy. But also it was me being a little bit negative, which I tried to avoid, but it was done in sort of a sarcastic way, and generally I'd say it went down quite well. But obviously, as you've noticed, I do collect records, so there must be some reasons why I do like collecting them. And that's going to be the basis of this video. I'm going to be going through 10 reasons why I do like collecting vinyl records, just to disparage any rumours that I'm some sort of masochist who enjoys doing things that they hate. I just whip myself for every dislike I get on YouTube. So I sat down and thought of my 10 reasons, and then I put them in a place where I put all my dreams and wishes in this small notebook with a lenticular picture of two fish on the front. And I don't think we need to go through any disclaimers for this one, so without further ado, we'll get going.
I've pierced my foot on a spike!
It's more fun, to me anyway. CDs are pretty common and you can pretty much find any album these days for pretty cheap on CD. And as much as I enjoy convenience, you know, that's a bit too easy for my liking. So yeah, I do kind of enjoy looking and hunting for records and finally coming across the one that I've always wanted. You know, it's sort of a satisfying feeling. And I mean, if you need any more evidence, just look at this. I mean, tell me which is more fun. Is it going to be this small, tiny thing that's in a really cheap plastic case? Or is it going to be this bad boy?
It's this one.
Now, like I said, CDs are very convenient. You know, you can pop them in your CD player in the car, something that you can't really do with a vinyl record unless you really try. And I know a lot of people in the VC do enjoy collecting CDs, but personally, I just can't see myself being as satisfied with a sort of short row of CDs as I am with a massive block of records. It's just more fun to look at, it's more fun to collect. So yeah, I just generally find vinyl records a bit more fun.
Oh no! Relax!
The artwork. Now granted, most CDs and vinyl records, if it's the same album, obviously have the same cover, but there's something about having it on a larger scale that's just a lot more fun to look at. The example I'll always use is ELO, Out of the Blue. Very famous artwork, and yeah, the CD does have the same cover, but it's just a lot more interesting to look at when it's on a larger scale. You can pick out more detail, you can see things that you wouldn't otherwise see. And this is especially true of albums with gatefolds, which, you know, CDs, it's quite difficult to get a gatefold in properly. It usually has to be on a separate piece of paper or something like that. But it's the same reason that people will stick posters up on the wall, or they want big TV screens and big computer screens. It's because generally the bigger it is, the better it is.
Yeah, it is actually the same gag.
And I mentioned this album last time, but Sgt. Pepper, you know, people who have the vinyl record will sit while the album's on and try and identify as many people as they can. It sounds silly, but I've done it, and I'm sure you probably have as well. And unless you're incredibly long-sighted, I'm sure you'll agree that holding a vinyl record with the artwork huge on the front is much more satisfying and easy to look at than, you know, a tiny CD cover.
Quiet, fat people on every fucking paper.
Number 3, they are much more satisfying to own physically. Now this is more an argument against digital downloads and things like that than CDs, because obviously CDs are a physical thing. Maybe it's the hoarder inside me, but I just like having the thing there. It's the same with everything. It's Blu-rays, you know, I can download films if I wanted to, but I collect Blu-rays. Video games, things like that. The only game I don't have physically is Minecraft, but that doesn't really count. But I just wouldn't find as much fun in going onto the computer, just clicking on the song and then letting it play through, or going onto a playlist or Spotify, things like that. Because there's something cool about the ritualistic thing of, you know, picking out a record by looking at the spines and then taking it out and putting it on and all that stuff. It's a bit of hard work, which I like. Effort takes you places. But you just don't get that with digital downloads. And again, I get it. You know, I have a Spotify account that I use for when I'm out walking, when we're in the car. Things like that. It's about convenience. Records aren't convenient, but you know, they're a lot more fun to play.
Shake your body, don't stop, don't miss. All you ladies pop your pussy like this.
That feeling you get when you just have a new record and you haven't played it yet, or you're on the way back from the shop and you're really excited to put it on, or it's just come in through the post. I guarantee if you're off out somewhere and then a record arrives in the mail, you're not going anywhere until the cardboard's opened, you've inspected it, you've looked at it, you've appreciated it, and you've put it where it should be. And then even if you've heard an album a million times before, you know, you'll put it on the record player, and it's just something, there's something different about it, and it's just more excitement and anticipation than I've ever felt with anything other than vinyl. CDs can sort of wait for me, you know, I can get a CD and I don't really have to put it on. I've got no real gut instinct that's telling me put it on now. And maybe that's because I don't have a great CD player, but a lot of people seem to agree with me from what I've read, so there you go, that's my reason 4.
Where's the lamb sauce?
Now don't get me wrong, I am not a social person. I don't like the idea of not so much people, interaction, having to hold a conversation, but I do quite enjoy being part of the vinyl community. Now for me personally speaking, this is social media, you know, I haven't been to any conventions or record fairs or anything like that. This is purely Facebook and YouTube and places like that. But it's cool to be a part of a sort of group of people where you've all got something in common. You know, it's like with anything, this goes with anything, but particularly records, I think, you know, just to be able to talk to people about, you know, your favourite records, albums, to geek out with people about stuff you enjoy, and not having to feel cripplingly ashamed. And, you know, I've got groups of friends who, you know, we talk about other stuff together, we talk about their interests, my interests, whatever's going on, but eventually it'll get to a point where, you know, they'll say, let's talk about something else, and I'll be like, no, I've got more to say, and I don't have to feel like that in the vinyl community. I can just ramble on and on and on and on, and people still listen, and people still watch, and everything like that. So yeah, I enjoy that very much.
Who would want such a thing?
They feel a lot more personal. Now this mightn't go for everyone, but personally for me, a lot of my albums come from my grandma's old collection. I'm not suggesting that yours do too, I'm just saying, you know, not everyone acquires records that way. But my grandma had a huge collection of records, and, you know, she sadly passed away a while ago, and I was invited to go through her records and, you know, pick out the ones that I wanted. And that really got me started, and I don't think without that I'd probably be collecting records. So it's cool to look at the ones that I do own that used to be my grandma's, like this Rumours was hers, and Fleetwood Mac were her favourite band, so it's kind of cool to think that, you know, how much she probably played this, and, you know, it's just nice to own. But even outside of family ties, I've got these two albums here, which you'll no doubt be familiar with, Balance of Power and Secret Messages by ELO. And I will say at this point that I got these on two separate occasions from two different places. If we look at the inner sleeve here, you'll notice that someone called Tony Devlin has signed his name. And normally I don't like it when people write on records, but if it's on the inner sleeve I don't really mind. And then if we look at Balance of Power, it's the same signature. So yeah, it's a bit of a weird coincidence, but it kicks you off thinking, you know, who was Tony Devlin? What happened to Tony Devlin? Is Tony Devlin okay? Why did Tony Devlin get rid of these albums? Why doesn't Tony Devlin return my calls? Why did Tony Devlin leave me and go off with that whore? Tony! Anyway, I just really think that records are more personal than any other medium, so that's my reason 7. 6. Now my 7th... I shouldn't have screamed. Now my 7th point kind of goes off one that was in the last video, which was skips and things like that in records, you know. And while skips and things are annoying, there's something really satisfying about managing to fix one, or to get a record sounding better, looking better, anything like that. I mean, I've bought second-hand records before, and there's been one or two, you know, small skips in it or something like that. And usually if there's tons and tons of things wrong with it, I don't even try, and I'm not someone who goes to the end of the earth to try and fix a record, but I just sometimes get like a damp paintbrush and run it round and then, you know, dry it off. And then let it air dry. Sometimes that gets rid of it, and there's just something about, you know, waiting for that bit of music to come round and thinking, is it done, is it done, is it done? Most of the time, quite frankly, it doesn't work, but on occasion it does work, and I just think, oh, it's a euphoric feeling. It's sort of a similar feeling I get to when I fix the computer or I fix the Wi-Fi despite having absolutely no idea what I'm doing, and I'm just there like... Pretty vinyl. Now ask anyone who knows me on a vaguely personal level that I am extremely superficial. I don't really care about personality, I mean just ask Tony. But there is something cool about coloured vinyl that you definitely don't get with CDs and you definitely don't get with digital downloads, and the example I'm going to use is Idle Race. Now this was from Record Store Day 2016, it was very kindly bought for me by James Loban, and I think I've shown this off before, but you know, show me a CD that looks as good as that. And it doesn't add to the sound quality, it doesn't add to the, you know, the quality of the music or the quality of the album, it just looks good. And if you call me, you'll know that's all that matters.
Now, I know you're pregnant, and normally that is a complete turn-off, but I'm willing to make an exception.
My penultimate reason is creative designs. Now there's all sorts of CDs and things with creative designs and ways of opening and things like that, but you tend to find it's more common with vinyl. And the two I'm going to use as an example are the two Beach House albums I've got. So I think the more famous of the two, in terms of its sort of, its design, is Depression Cherry. And I know it doesn't really come across on the camera, but it's actually sort of felt, and it's really soft to hold, and it's so like the album, it's just so soft and dreamy and lovely and satisfying. So yeah, there's that. And then there is Bloom, which is arguably their best album, which actually glows in the dark. Now I don't think the light in here is going to show this off properly. Definitely not. But yeah, when obviously it's been in the light for a while and it goes dark, all these dots glow, I believe the words on the back glow, and it's just, you know, again, it doesn't improve the quality of the music, but it's just something cool to look at, something cool to have, and it's very creative. And as cool as they are, they're actually pretty mundane compared to a lot of other vinyl that I've seen. I've seen glow-in-the-dark vinyl records, I've seen vinyl records filled with xenomorph blood and all sorts of colours, I've seen records that have got hair in them. I've seen records that have got menstrual blood in them. That's an interesting one. But there's so many more cool things that you can do with a vinyl record, and it's so interesting to see what people come up with. I've even seen a record that was made of, like, the sleeve was made of sandpaper, so that it would sort of destroy the records either side of it, you know, when you put it in. Which is a dick thing to do, but it is quite funny. So yeah, it's interesting to see what artists can come up with when thinking about their creative sleeve work.
You fat prick!
And my final reason in this video is the pride of owning rarities. Now, I don't own too many rare records. Probably the rarest thing I own is this, the soundtrack to The Burning from One Way Static. This is number 118 out of 500. Now, I know there was actually more press than this, but I think there's only 500 that are in that particular design. So yeah, it's pretty cool to have. And I know I whinged in the last video about, you know, certain records from particularly the 90s being quite rare. And it is a pain in the arse trying to find them and trying to find them at a decent price. But it's when you finally get it and, you know, you sort of get the good deal, the deal that you want, and you actually have it. And it's just so much more satisfying than going onto, you know, Spotify and going, da-da-da-da, there it is, click. Again, it all comes down to effort. You know, a lot of people like convenience and ease of use and things like that. That's absolutely fine, you know, digital downloads and things like that are absolutely perfect for them. But it's that thing about, you know, working your way up from nothing and, you know, if you build a business and get rich, it's much better than winning the lottery. I think that's quite a good analogy. You know, if you work to get a record and then you get it, it feels much better than, you know, like I say, just clicking on it on the internet. And even then, if you download it on the internet, it doesn't really feel like yours because it's not, you don't have it, the computer has it. Whereas if you have a record, it's your record and, you know, people can sign their names on it like Tony did. But yeah, there's something about it. I mean, I've pulled loads out here. I'm surrounded by the bloody things. But, you know, they all weirdly just feel like my copies of the albums, which I've never experienced before with anything online or even with a CD. So there we go. Yeah, that's my 10 reasons why I like collecting vinyl. Again, as I said with the last one, there's probably more reasons than that. It's just the first 10 that came to mind. So let me know what you think of what I've said. If you have any more reasons why you like collecting vinyl, or indeed if you haven't seen the other video, go over and watch that as to why I don't. Quite worrying that I came up with more reasons why I don't like collecting vinyl than why I do. But nevertheless, obviously these outweigh the other ones because I do collect vinyl. So there you go. Thank you very much for watching. Tony, if you're out there, please give me a call back. And I will see you in a future video. Thanks for watching.